Today we're gonna find out how good is the Goblin Biker archetype in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! What's potion? You got Matt here and welcome back to another competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Video. Today we're talking about the Goblin Biker archetype, an archetype that is really flying under the radar at the moment. It's a very heavy Xyz and rank 3 base strategy with a really cool mechanic behind it, so let's find out a bit more. But in this video I'll be covering the Goblin Biker archetype, including an overview on what the cards do and how the deck works, cards and engines that you want to pair with it, and even cards that are going to help you beat it. So if you're excited for the video, then make sure to smash the like button. If this video hits 250 likes, then I'll bring you the ultimate guide on the brand new YuBell deck. Also, if you like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Including deck profiles, guides on how to beat the best decks, meta discussions, and videos just like this one, you're gonna love this channel, so make sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers and we can't get there without your help. But with that being said, it's time for us to find out just how good is the Goblin Biker archetype in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's jump into it. So one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is because I think the universe is kind of telling me to pick up Goblin Biker as an archetype. I've managed to pull not only one, but two different Goblin Biker QCRs, so that might just be the universe's way of saying, hey, play this deck. That being said, there are a lot of Goblin Biker cards, and the first thing we're going to do is talk about each of them. The ones we're going to be covering today are Goblin Biker Boom Mock, Goblin Biker Clatter Splatter, Doug Charger, Mean Merciless, Grand Bash, Grand Entrance, Grand Stampede, Big Gabonga, and Goblin's Crazy Beast. And there are two more that haven't been released yet but will be soon. That's Goblin Biker Grial Trio and Goblin Biker Pileup. Starting off with the main deck monsters. The first one we're going to talk about is going to be Goblin Biker Boom Mock. Its effect is that once per chain during the main phase, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, as a quick effect, you can detach one Xyz material from any monster on the field, and if you do, special summon this card. Also, you cannot special summon Goblin Biker Boom Mock until the end of the next turn. Boom Mock is a great extender for the strategy, but it doesn't really do much on its own. On the other hand, we have Goblin Biker Clatter Splatter. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one goblin monster in your graveyard except itself and special summon it. Its second effect is during your opponent's main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, as a quick effect, you can detach one material from a monster on either field, and if you do, special this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Now you can get around this restriction by using it as Xyz material. Goblin Biker Doug Charger is the best main deck monster. Its effect is that if this card is in your hand, you can detach one Xyz material from a monster on either field, and if you do, special summon this card. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Goblin Biker Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand. The last main deck monster is Goblin Biker Mean Merciless. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can special summon one goblin monster from your hand except itself. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can detach one Xyz material from a monster on either field, and if you do, special this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Again, you can get around this by using it as Xyz material. There are three Goblin extra deck monsters, two of which are legal right now. The first is Goblin Biker Big Gabonga. It requires two level 3 monsters to summon. If it's Xyz summoned, you can add one goblin monster from your deck to your hand. Its second effect is that if a material is detached from any monster on the field except during the damage step, you can target one face-up monster on the field except this card and attach it to this card as material. So this effect turns all your Goblin Biker summoning conditions into removal as well. And during the end phase, you can attach one goblin monster from your deck to this card as material, and each effect is a hard once per turn. Goblin's Crazy Beast is not a Goblin Biker card, but it definitely is part of the archetype. It requires 2 or more level 6 monsters. Once per turn, as a quick effect, you can target one spell or trap on the field as cost and detach 2 materials from a monster on the field, and if you do, attach that target to this card as material. If a monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can detach one material from this card instead. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card, then you can attach one goblin monster from your graveyard to this card as material, and you can only use this effect of Goblin's Crazy Beast once per duel. Goblin Biker Grial Trio is the final Goblin Biker extra deck monster. It's not currently legal in the TCG but will be soon. It requires 2 or more level 3 monsters. If 3 or more Xyz monsters are attached to monsters on the field, your goblin monsters can attack directly. Once per turn, if a monster is normal or special summoned while this monster is on the field, you can target one of them as cost and detach one Xyz material from a monster on either field, and if you do, change the targeted monster's battle position. Once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can detach one Xyz material from a monster on either field, and if you do, negate the attack. It's not the best card by any means, but it is a solid option that will see play at least at one copy in most extra decks. Moving on to the spell and trap cards. Goblin Biker Grand Entrance is the rota for the strategy. Its effect is that you add one goblin monster from your deck to your hand. Then you can apply the following effect. Detach one Xyz material from a monster on either field, and if you do, special summon one level 4 or lower goblin monster from your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard as cost and detach one Xyz material from a monster on either field. Then you can add one goblin monster from your graveyard to your hand, and each effect is a hard once per turn. Goblin Biker Grand Bash is the continuous spell. First of all, goblin monsters you control gain 300 attack for each goblin monster you control. During your main phase, you can normal summon one goblin monster in addition to your normal summoner set. Its last effect is that you can target 2 goblin monsters you control, then activate one of these effects. Either make the level of one of those monsters become the current level of the other, or both of their levels become the combined original levels. So if you have 2 level 3s on the field, they become level 6. If you have a level 6 and level 3, you can make them both level 3. Goblin Biker Grand Stampede is the continuous trap card. During the main phase, you can immediately after this effect resolves, Xyz summon one Xyz monster using only goblin monsters you control. Its second effect is that if you control a goblin Xyz monster, you can target one effect monster on the field as cost and detach one Xyz material from a monster on the field, and if you do, negate that monster's effects until the end of the turn. Unfortunately, you can only use one effect per turn and only once that turn. Goblin Biker Pileup is a normal trap card that hasn't been released yet. It also has 2 effects. The first is that you can target one Xyz monster you control as cost, special summon one goblin Xyz monster from your extra deck by using that monster you control as material, and if you do, attach this card to it as additional material, and this is treated as an Xyz summon. And its second effect is that you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one goblin Xyz monster you control and one card in either graveyard as cost. Attach that targeted card in the graveyard to the targeted monster on the field. The deck's main game plan is to establish a rank 3 monster on the field as quickly as possible. When they do this, they can then start using the effects of their goblin monsters in hand or graveyard to detach materials to special summon themselves. Basically, goblins are the newest variation of the 3-axis deck we've seen in recent years. The deck doesn't really have traditional forms of disruption. Really, it's going to be the negation from Grand Stampede, you have the attaching to Big Gabonga, you also have possibly a Shuriken for negation, but more commonly than not, you'll have the full armor Xyz cards like Dark Knight Lancer. And for back row decks, they also have Goblin's Crazy Beast, which is a solid option at that. But the deck is actually able to OTK very easily thanks to Goblin Grand Bash. You can easily give your goblin monsters 900 or even 1200 attack points to swing in for game. And when the new Goblin Biker rank 3 comes out, it'll be even easier than that. Now, while there are going to be a lot of Goblin Biker cards in the main deck, the deck needs to be supplemented with a lot of other rank 3 enabling cards in the game today. Without those cards, they can't easily get to a rank 3 monster, which means their plays are much weaker. Some really common options to see are going to be Tour Guide from the Underworld. Tour Guide is still one of the best normal summons to get access to a rank 3 in the game today, and it's a prime target for hand traps. I've seen some lists pair Tour Guide with Fiendish Rhino Warrior as a way to get the Mean Merciless in the graveyard, but honestly, you're probably just better off summoning Mean Merciless off of Tour Guide. Speedroy Terrortop and Takatumborg are great options as well. If left uninterrupted, it's a free rank 3 without using your normal summon. Level 3 Psychic monsters are also very common. Psychic Wielder and Tracker are great cards on their own, but Virtual World Nyan Nyan is also seeing play, and E-Telly is a great option to make all of these extenders from the deck. Kagemusha Knight is also an amazing option. It lets you chain block effects. For example, if you normal summon Tour Guide or Doug Charger and use Chainlink 1 on either of their effects, you can then use Kagemusha Knight as Chainlink 2 to protect them from Ash Blossom. And the Armored Xyz cards are also very popular. It's just 3 extra deck monsters in the form of Xyz Armor Torpedo, Xyz Armor Fortress, and full armored Dark Knight Lancer. And depending on what you're comfortable with, it's going to be 1 or 2 main deck cards as well in Armored Xyz and Full Armored Xyz. This engine gives the deck an extra draw and interruption by equipping an opponent's monster to Dark Knight Lancer. Basically, all of these cards give the deck additional access to rank 3 monsters, which is very important, because without Big Gabonga, the deck loses steam very quickly. Now let's talk about what the deck actually looks like. Deck lists can vary based on 3 different factors. The first is going to be what level 3 extenders are you going to be playing in this specific strategy. Second is going to be how much non-engine are you planning to play as well to be able to defend from opposing cards. And the last part, which is arguably the most important, is going to be, are you playing Goblin Biker as a pure deck or as a smaller engine in something else, like for example, Phantom Knights. As of right now, this is the Goblin Biker list that I've been playing with online, and I'm having a good time with it, but it is more of a pure Goblin Biker deck, which not everyone's a fan of. In my opinion, these ratios are pretty mandatory. You need 3 copies of Doug Charger, 2 to 3 copies of Mean Merciless, 2 Clatter Splatter, 2 Boom Mock, 3 Grand Entrance, 2 Grand Bash, and 1 Grand Stampede. I also prefer to play these level 3 extenders: 3 Tour Guide, 2 Terratop and 1 Takatumborg, 1 Wielder and 1 Tracker, 1 Kagamusha Knight, and 3 copies of Emergency Teleport. Now let's talk about cards to use against the Goblin Biker strategy to find success against them, starting off with cards that are really good on your turn 0. First off, I want to talk about Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler. Both of these cards are very good, and you would think that Ash Blossom may be a bit better, but actually the reason why I'm highlighting Imperm and Veiler is because you want to use them on the big Gabonga. Sure, they can still detach cards from it to summon out other monsters, but if you can negate the effect of Big Gabonga to search for another copy of a goblin monster, or attach one from the deck in the end phase, that gives you so much advantage. Droll and Lockbird is also a solid option against this strategy as well. There's a decent amount of searching going on with it, and they kind of need that to really recycle their resources. Think of it this way: if they have a Grand Entrance, they can search for Doug Charger, which then searches for Grand Bash, and then gets them additional ways to get access to Big Gabonga, which gets another search as well. If you can draw them on the Reinforcement of the Army or the Grand Entrance, it makes their lives a lot harder. Dimension Shifter is also incredible against this strategy. They really have no way to just recur resources from the Banished Zone, and all of their cards have graveyard effects as well. And finally, I wanted to highlight Nibiru. Nib is a fantastic card against this deck because they don't really put up any form of negation outside of possibly Ashura King, which isn't always going to be available for them. It's also really hard for them to rebuild their board after they've been hit with Nibiru. As for cards that are good when you're going first, I wanted to highlight Spellbound and Dimensional Barrier. Both of these cards are very good at stopping exactly one thing, which is going to be to prevent them from going into Xyz monsters. Without being able to summon Xyz monsters, their engine kind of just dies. And of course, Summon Limit is a fantastic option against this deck as well. They always need 2 monsters on the field at least to go into an Xyz monster. If you use Summon Limit on the second summon, they can't go into an Xyz monster and their turn practically ends. When going second, however, I really like board wipes in the form of Dark Hole and Raigeki, exclusively if they do not have Crazy Beast on the field. Crazy Beast can protect from Dark Hole and Raigeki, but without that, they don't put up much negation, which means their board is going to be completely wiped. And then Evenly Matched is a great option as well. By banishing these resources face down, they can't really interact with them anymore, which makes it very difficult for them to rebuild a board successfully. Now, there are other cards that would seem good against this strategy, but I don't really think are worth playing. The first of which is going to be Contact C. You would think that by giving your opponent a copy of Contact C, they're forced to Xyz with that card, which is not that bad. But keep in mind, a lot of these decks are now utilizing a copy of IP Masquerena and SP Little Knights, which you're giving them fodder for. But it's also a level 6 monster, which means if they have a copy of Grand Bash and 2 Goblin Bikers on the field, they can easily turn those Goblin Biker monsters into level 6s and overlay the copy of Contact C with that Goblin Biker monster for the Crazy Beast. And the last cards I wanted to talk about as being not worth playing are going to be cards that steal opposing monsters. Cards like Triple Tactical Talents, or Change of Heart, or Mind Control. These don't really do anything. If you're planning to link off with them, that's one thing, but your opponent can simply use the effect of a goblin monster to detach a material to be able to summon them back anyways, so you don't really accomplish very much in that case. Goblin Biker is a very fun deck with a lot going for it, and it gets even better if you're playing against another Xyz-based strategy. The problem is, right now, the best decks are Snake Eye and Snake Eye Fire King, which play maybe one Xyz monster in the form of Typhon. So it's not really worth it to play Goblin Biker as a meta call. For that reason, Goblin Biker hasn't seen very much success competitively, but who knows, with the new support it just might. The Goblin Biker archetype has very clear weaknesses, and that's okay, especially because the deck itself offers a cohesive strategy. And that's fine because most of the time we get these decks that are just really bad for no particular reason, and their engines don't really work together. Goblin Biker is a fun deck that if you want to play, you're going to have a great time doing so. Just remember that not every deck can be an absolutely insane tier 0 super threat, so if you're going to play Goblin Biker, don't go into it thinking I'm going to win every single game, but you will have a blast playing it. And there you have it, you now have an introduction to use or beat the Goblin Biker archetype. Now let me know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on the archetype itself, and are you planning on playing this strategy? I was actually debating playing this deck when Phantom Nightmare first dropped, but I got most of the cards I needed for the Snake Eye deck, so I decided to just stick with that for the time being. Speaking of which, I'm giving away a copy of Promethean Princess to one lucky subscriber on the channel. If you want to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is leave a like on the video, comment something nice about the Goblin Biker archetype, and of course be subscribed to the channel. I'll be picking the winner once we hit 10,000 subscribers. You give yourself more chances to win by doing those 3 things on every new video I post until we hit 10,000 subscribers. If you want more information, check out the pinned comment. But if you made it this far, you must have enjoyed it, so of course make sure to smash the like button. Remember, at 250 likes on the video, I'll bring you the ultimate guide on how to use the YuGiOh archetype. And of course, subscribe to the channel as well. Check out the description for the links to my Twitter and Discord server, which you should both follow and join. And of course, if you're planning on buying anything from TCG Player, use my affiliate link. It costs you nothing extra and you support the channel. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.